Episode 1 of New and Noteworthy starts now.
Hey, this is Rye Taylor from Take Action Q&A, and you are listening to Dave Westwood of the New and Noteworthy podcast. Guys, you are going to love this show.
Are you ready to experience the future? Welcome to the New and Noteworthy podcast, where it's out with the old and in with the new. Dave Westwood brings you the celebrities of tomorrow as today's newest podcasters share their stories, their journey, and their show. So get ready, because the New and Noteworthy podcast starts now.
Hi, this is Dave Westwood, and welcome to the debut episode of New and Noteworthy. We are extremely happy to have you here today. You can check us out twice weekly, every Tuesday and Friday, on iTunes, on Stitcher, or you can check us out right on our website at newandnoteworthy.net. And check out our podcast player. It's mobile compatible, so you can play right from our website. To give you a little rundown on what the show is about, we will be featuring the best new podcasters and their shows. You'll get to hear their stories and what their show's all about. So hopefully, after you listen to us every week, you'll get to go back and listen to them as well. Some of the guests we have coming up are Craig Carpenter from Modernpreneur, Arel Moody from The Art of Likeability, and Craig Hayworth with Winning Youth Coaching. These are just some of the guests we have coming up in the upcoming weeks, so make sure you stay tuned. I'll give you a little rundown on my story and how I got to do this podcast. A long time ago, I had worked in the radio business. I actually worked for my college radio station and had tried to pursue a career in broadcasting. Unfortunately for me, my father got ill, and that kind of put my dreams on hold until this whole podcasting thing kind of came around. And I said, well, you know, this is a way I can live my dream. Commute about an hour to work each way. I would listen to podcasts. So I thought this was a great way for me to kind of get back into business, because it is a more accessible medium than trying to get a radio job being in my late 40s. That's how I got inspired to do a podcast. Now, what I can tell you, it's much more accessible. It's not easy by any stretch of the imagination. Anyway, I thought, what could I podcast about? My wife and I own a pretty successful pet sitting business in Pennsylvania, and I had thought about doing a pet sitting podcast, interviewing experts in the pet care industry. However, I decided against that because I thought, quite frankly, I would only have so many topics to talk about. I had decided against that and thought, well, what can I do a podcast about? And the subject of New and Noteworthy came up. I just kind of looked through the New and Noteworthy list and saw a bunch of different podcasts to try and get inspiration. And I thought, well, you know, I could interview these people because there's always a New and Noteworthy list. So there are always new podcasters. Moreover, they would be likely people that would want to be interviewed because they have new shows. They're eager to promote them. What I've found since then is I've got to meet people from all walks of life, all different professions, all different backgrounds. And it's been incredibly rewarding, incredibly satisfying to hear what their journeys have been. Hopefully you'll find that same satisfaction. Our first guest for the debut episode is actually co-hosts of the podcast 5 Minutes with Dad, and they are right now ranked in the top of the kids and family section in New and Noteworthy. Nick and Pavlos Pavlidis. So Pavlos is the son. He is 5 years old. We got to talk to him for a few minutes. We also got to talk with his dad, Nick, for quite a while. And you'll get to hear their journey and what the podcast is all about. It's a podcast I highly recommend, especially if you have a short commute to work. It's just really fun, really uplifting. And if you're a parent, definitely can't help but smile as you listen to this podcast. So let's take you right now to that interview. We're going to start out with Nick and then have Pavlos right after that. So hope you enjoy. Make sure you listen to future episodes, and make sure you subscribe in iTunes or Stitcher. You can also leave us a review as well. So thanks very much. Here's the interview with Nick Pavlidis. My guest today is the co-host of the podcast 5 Minutes with Dad. His name is Nick Pavlidis. Nick, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We had your son, Pavlos, who's your co-host, on a little earlier, and we're going to play some clips of that later. And we also had your daughter. Tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Well, it's a real simple concept, and it is what I call a quality time podcast. And it's really just, it's the entire thing, including music, intro, outro, and everything, is less than 10 minutes. It's 5 minutes or so with me and Pavlos, and usually Angela. Pavlos is my 5-year-old son. Angela's my 2, almost 3-year-old daughter. And we just hang out a little bit and we record it. So essentially what we're doing is we're letting some people, or anyone who wants to listen, just listen in on a little father-son or daddy-daughter time. And, you know, the point of it is to inspire and encourage other parents to turn off all the power buttons and just talk with their kids, a little face-to-face time.
Yeah, and I've had the chance to listen to a couple of the episodes. It's definitely great for people who have a short commute to work, especially, you know, even if you're not a parent, it's definitely an entertaining podcast. But I imagine trying to sit a 5-year-old down to do a podcast can be a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, and I think you know, part of the excitement or the joy is watching them sort of relate with each other. Neither of them like to sit still. We have a stationary microphone, and I've tried several microphones to try and see which one would be more accommodating to them. And we're about to try a new one. It is quite the challenge. Usually it takes us about 45 minutes to get the 5 minutes of audio. But, you know, even those 45 minutes, sometimes the podcast producer in me gets a little, you know, nervous or concerned or frustrated. I don't let it out because I know at the end, really, if it takes us 45 minutes to record a 5-minute episode, that's 45 minutes I get to spend just chatting and goofing around with my kids. So it is challenging, but I keep reminding myself, and, you know, I come at it from a good place. And it's just more time I get to spend with them. Sure, there's less episodes, but, you know, really at the end of the day, my number one goal is to spend some extra time with my kids. And then we turn the microphones on and put it up on iTunes and Stitcher to encourage other parents to do the same.
Well, and it's a really great concept. I mean, I think Pavlos is probably the youngest podcaster to make New and Noteworthy, at least that I can think of, unless technically you count Angela.
Yeah, well, Angela's on quite a few, and she had her own solo episode, which is cool. But yeah, and it's really amazing. I mean, Pavlos just has such a vibrant personality, and I'm biased, obviously, but if you look through the reviews on iTunes, I don't know, however many, as we're recording, it's 70 or 80 reviews on iTunes, and I'd like at least a third of them mention smiling during the episode. It's just so hard not to just sit there and laugh and enjoy the energy that he has, the curiosity that he has. It's really fun, and it's performed incredibly well. He's hit number 2 in the education section, number 1 in games and hobbies, number 1 in kids and family, and even the number 1 overall spot in the kids and family audio podcast across all of iTunes. I mean, it's just incredible.
Well, and that's amazing. Obviously, it gives you a big thrill because you kind of see this. Does Pavlos kind of grasp what's going on as far as that goes?
Well, you know, it's funny. He has no sense of measure. So, like, if I told him we had 1,000 downloads or whatever, that wouldn't mean anything to him. But he counts the gold stars, and I read him all the reviews. So, you know, he has this sort of sense where, you know, you get gold stars when you do well. So we sit at the computer if there's a new review, and he doesn't know if it's new or not, but, you know, we'll sit down when there's a new review and say, hey, look at all the gold stars everyone gave you, and he gets really excited about that. So
that's pretty cool, and he definitely so we talked earlier. He's starting kindergarten tomorrow.
Yeah.
Definitely a big day for him as well as you. He's got a great what I did over the summer story to tell his teacher and his classmates, for sure.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Like and now as we're getting to record more of the episodes, he's starting to understand, you know, there's a website behind it. There's there are resources. We talk about books. Every episode I'll either suggest a game or an activity or a book that Pavlos or Angela and I play or enjoy together, and so he's starting to see that connection. We're reading this book, and then we're talking about the book, or you know, and he's starting to get it. So I suspect he will have somewhat of a story that no one will believe when he goes back to school.
Well, the good thing is You do have a website, and it is preserved on audio. So if anybody doubts him, he can just play that. He can play it on his phone because, you know, for his birthday, you talked about it on the one episode, he got a new phone.
Yeah, he got one of those kids, some sort of a kid's tablet. My sister got him one of those learning tablets or whatever. And it's great because in his mind, it's all games. But, you know, the games are designed to learn alphabets and things like that. It's, it'd be interesting. I'm sure if some friends of mine could hack a way to get a podcast app on it so he could listen to his own show, which is all he wants to do in the car. He could totally send the teachers over to 5minuteswithdad.com and they'll see his name there.
Well, that's pretty awesome. So what inspired you to start the podcast?
Well, it's funny because I have been behind a microphone since I was as young as I can remember. First in a band, and in kindergarten I had a lip syncing rock band, so I was on stage playing a bucket or whatever. And I've always enjoyed being behind a microphone, talking, singing poorly, playing the drums, playing guitar. For me, once I went to school and college and grad school, I got away from that a little bit. I still recorded some music, not very well. I never really practiced, but I just wanted that outlet. So as I started transitioning into a job that gave me more flexibility with time, I started looking to ways that I could get behind the microphone again. So I wanted to start a podcast, and I was talking with my wife about my ideas for the podcast, what I wanted to talk about, what I wanted to look like, to feel. And we were at the dinner table, and Pavlos asked me what a podcast was. So I said, well, it's like a show. It's a show on the computer. And he said, oh, can I do a show with you? And, I had been studying and writing things down for, I don't know, a couple weeks or a week, like the people I wanted to encourage, the people I wanted to inspire, the things I like to do if no one's paying me, or if there's, no one's around, what would I do if I had an extra hour in the day? I'd write all those things down to try and conceptualize what I wanted my podcast to be, because I wanted it to be something that kept me excited, but could also do good in the world. And one of the things I wrote down was if I had an extra hour, I'd spend it with my kids. And so when Pavlos said, can I do a show with you? I had this aha moment, and it was like, yes, you can do a show with me. Because if I had that extra hour, I would want to spend it with you. There are other things that I listed, but this is the perfect connection to something I'm passionate about, something that can encourage, inspire other people, and something that would just be fun to do. So he came up with that idea, and then I sort of ran with it. I said, well, he asked me afterwards, what do you do shows for? I said, well, you can do shows to just have fun. You can do shows to raise money. You can do shows to make money. And he said, well, can I make money? And I said, well, yeah, I guess, we can make money. Let's, we'll do our show, and we'll, some of the products we talk about that we do, we put out an affiliate link. So if someone purchases it, he gets 4 or 5% or whatever. But, so we talked about this sort of concept of making money by doing things other than the traditional job. We talk about that all the time. So that's, part of why I brought it up in response to his question. And I want to encourage him to think of ways that he can creatively make money growing up, so he has all the opportunities. If he wants a traditional job, great, go for it. But if he wants to do something a little more creative, have that sort of viewpoint that I can make this a career and enjoy my life and enjoy my career at the same time. So, he comes back and says, great, I want to save up and buy a flying car. And of course I melted. And that is how the entire concept of 5 Minutes with Dad was conceived. Because originally I just wanted to do 5 Minutes with Dad, we'll talk. And then when he said, can I save up to buy, wasn't that long of a time frame, but my first reaction was, yeah, let's do a show together. But then he said, we talked about it a little bit more. I said, he wants to save up and buy a flying car. That's going to be the show. So we will do a show where Pavlos and I have fun. We hang out, we inspire, we encourage people. And then Pavlos is using it to save up to buy a flying car.
Well, he's definitely off to a great start because, as you mentioned, the show's topping New and Noteworthy in many of the categories. You talked about teaching lessons about residual income and affiliate-type relationships. And I know he probably doesn't grasp the whole thing, but have you kind of shown him any of the nuts and bolts behind some of that stuff?
Well, yeah, it's actually funny, because I'll mention the the website, like we'll have links that we'll send people over. So one of our things, for example, is his piggy banks. He has piggy banks that they're 4 banks. One's for saving, one's for spending, one's for giving, one's for investing. And we use that very casually. It's not like this, drill sergeant thing here, but very casually we use that to teach him that money serves 4 different purposes, at least, but 4 different purposes. One is for giving to help others. One is for saving so he can have things later on and be responsible and retire and things like that. But we don't talk about that level of detail yet. But one's for saving for long-term things. One's for spending for things like toys. And the other one is for investing. And we don't talk much about investing, but we just tell him investing is for big things later on. 2, that's his bank. So we'll say, 5minuteswithdad.com/banks. If you go there, you buy it, at Amazon, we get 5%. And he hears that. I record it separately, but he hears it on the show, and we talk a little bit about that. And he knows that that's one way is to share the things that he enjoys doing. And if people also enjoy it, he can get money for recommending it. So he sort of gets the general concept of it, and he gets that there's a website, and it's on the computer. But aside from that, he just sees sort of like, you do a show, because I pay him 4 coins per show. He loves coins. So, he sees you get 4 coins. And the reason it's 4, it's one for each of the piggy banks: give, save, spend, and invest. And once he saves up 5 coins in his spending bank, he gives them to me, and I give him a little toy. And he even jokes about it on one of the episodes. I don't know if it's one that's been up yet, but he jokes that he has to buy his toys from me. He said, "Oh, I buy them from Daddy." I said, "No, you buy them through me." He's like, "Nah, but you give them from the store, and then I give you the money. You give them to me." He's like, "I buy them from Daddy." Like, yeah, I guess he kind of got me there, but.
So you're kind of the middleman, and I know all about that, believe me.
Yeah, exactly. But there's no markup for the middleman. I'm marking it down, if anything.
And it's funny because we obviously talked with Pavlos before the show here, and he definitely got the concept of spending down.
Oh, yeah.
So, aside from trying to sit a 5-year-old down to record a podcast, what do you think is the biggest challenge to starting the podcast itself?
Well, for me, I overcomplicated it in my mind. Because really, anything that you're doing in business is about relationships, and it's about doing something that you're going to want to do. All those little things like where does my microphone plug in, or what software do I need to record on, or whatever it is, all that stuff is details you can find on YouTube, or, I'm in a podcast networking group, so I could just pop up a question, "Hey, my microphone doesn't sound okay. Can someone let me know what I'm doing wrong?" And in 30 seconds, I have an answer. That stuff is something that's not unique to you. So for me, distinguishing between the nuts and bolts of plugging in a microphone, I was just intimidated by the sound or the idea of having a mixer. We record with 2 microphones, so it's even a little more complicated because you can't plug both of them into my computer, or maybe you can, and I don't really know how. So I bought a mixer, and then the mixer, I couldn't figure out how to plug it into the computer. So for me, all that stuff just really intimidated me, and it delayed. Originally, we started recording in April, and we didn't launch until July because not confident that I was doing the recording right or the sound quality. But really, the challenging part was finding something that I was really motivated to do. And now it's easy. All those things, everything's plugged in, and I just hit go, and I'm ready to record. But I think overcomplicating the technical or being intimidated by how do I get it on iTunes, that sort of thing is the easiest part of podcasting. And that's what I let slow me down before I launched.
And it is definitely, technically challenging, but to your point, there's a ton of information out there, and having resources available to kind of ask is also a benefit.
Yeah.
So you mentioned being part of a podcasting community. How important has that community been in terms of getting behind the podcast or helping you get to that point where you've launched it?
Oh, incredibly important. I joined, I want to say sometime in May or June, and just seeing everybody around me launching and seeing the artwork. We all share artwork, we share our artwork and our ideas, and you put something up there and you get 5, 10, 15, 20 people all helping you tweak it or encouraging you that it's good enough to go. And it's been absolutely incredible. And then, connecting and networking with each other and saying, hey, I think this would be an incredible guest on your show. My other podcast that's in the works has guests, and, I've connected with a few of them through the podcasting network. I've been guests on shows for the same reason. So it's really, really incredible to have that community, and also promoting each other's podcasts. If you listen to the last few episodes of 5 Minutes with Dad and going forward, I'll mention, hey, there's a great kids and family podcast. It's called this or it's called that. And those are friends who I met and listened to their show in that community and really like it. And here comes Pavlos again, and really like it and like their show. So I then mention them on my show. So whoever's listening to mine might get a heads up or might get a new listener, a new subscriber, and vice versa. I've been mentioned on other shows. So it's totally between promoting and networking and ideas and encouragement. The podcast community has been vital. I probably still would not have launched if not for the community.
Definitely gives you, I guess, an accountability partner, because once you kind of put it out there that I'm going to launch on X date, kind of feel accountable to those other people as well, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Once when consider myself a man of my word, so to speak. And once I put out there, hey, I'm launching at the end of the month, or I'm launching, it's just there. And in fact, I remember before 5 Minutes with Dad launched, I said, I'm going to launch it later this month, and this was in June. And I don't know, I had the episodes ready, but they were just sitting on my computer. And then I said, all right, I'm going to launch the first week. And I started saying, not too many people noticed the first time, but then I just kept getting anxious, and finally the community just really wrapped their arms around me and made me think, why is this stuff just sitting on my computer? It could be doing so much more good if I put it out there, and what am I afraid of? And they really just helped lift me and supported me to really just press go.
That is really awesome, and obviously they've really gotten behind you, made 5 Minutes with Dad a huge success. What's your biggest thrill to date with the podcast?
I think, Pavlos loves counting the gold stars. So for he and I, I've had these sort of personal, thrills, like the day we hit number one for the first time on the kids and family section. I mean, that was cool, and I shared that with several of my friends. But sitting down with Pavlos and watching him count the gold stars and reading him the reviews on iTunes, and these are people who we may or may not know or may not have met. Some of them are from the podcast community. But just to read reviews of people saying, hey, I'd listened to this and I had this big smile on my face, and some of the reviews are like, this is going to make me a better dad, that sort of thing. And just reading it with Pavlos especially, it was just a really, really rewarding.
So what advice would you give to anyone that's looking to start or grow their podcast?
Well, number one, I would say don't try and do it alone. There's no SEO or, Facebook ads that'll make your podcast popular. You might get a few extra eyes every now and then, but if you're trying to do it by yourself, you're going to be by yourself. I would say that the number one thing you can do is join a small or large community of people who are podcasting or blogging or somehow involved in a similar area or niche as you, and wrap your arms around each other because you believe in those people, and help support each other, help cross-promote the podcast, make sure it's stuff that you would listen to yourself, stay authentic to yourself, and find 5, 6, or 50 or 60 people where you can all approve of each other's shows or approve of each other's messages. They're good people, and just get together and help lift each other. You'll have every kind of support you can imagine, and it's really the only way to grow a podcast from the beginning. You'll never do it alone.
And that's great advice for, I think, any business. Having that community around you of like-minded people that really have knowledge and can bring a lot to the table to help you figure out the right way to go about your business or your podcast. If you had to start over from scratch, would there be anything you would do differently?
With 5 Minutes with Dad? I don't know, probably not. I might have, the cliche is to say I would have started earlier. The challenge with starting earlier is Pavlos was only 4 when we started. So the younger he gets, the harder it is for it. But I probably would have started just a little bit earlier. I would have launched earlier and not let the information, the shows, just sit there edited on my computer out of fear or self-consciousness or whatever it is.
Now, do you have a favorite podcast that you listen to?
I love the Dan Miller 48 Days to the Work You Love podcast. Dan is one of my marriage mentors. He's someone I watch from a business perspective. I study his business. I've become friends with him over the last year or so. And just listening to the hope that he gives people every Friday is something that really encourages me and inspires me in every way of my life. The way he is with his wife, Joanne, the way he is with his children and his grandchildren, his outlook on life, it just comes through there. And it's a career podcast, and I'm very happy with my career, but I listen to that. The second it pops onto my screen, I just can't wait until I can listen to it, just because of the hope and the encouragement that he provides.
Yeah, and it is a great podcast. I've actually read his books, and we talked about communities. He also has a great 48 Days community as well.
Yep.
Possibly starting a second podcast. So what's that one going to be about?
Well, it'll be launched in September of 2014, and it's called Confessions of a Terrible Husband. And it's really my story of how I was so career, business focused for the first 5 years of my marriage. And I thought that success, the financial success, the business success, would just trickle down. If my family just didn't have to worry that they would be able to put food on their table, then it would provide this solid base from which to grow a healthy family relationship. And I got it completely backwards. So Confessions of a Terrible Husband is sort of me almost. It's funny because on some episodes I'm talking to marriage, not experts, but marriage voices, and Fawn Weaver from the Happy Wives Club is the guest for episode 1. And, Dan and Joanne are on an episode, and there are other, like John Miller, who wrote QBQ, The Question Behind the Question. They're all experts in something, yet they've built their brands, which are solid business brands, and have incredible marriages. So it's almost like, and I said it to Fawn, it's like marriage therapy on recorded. So it's being recorded and just put out there. So it's about taking personal responsibility over improving your relationship, not pointing fingers. What can my wife do better? But what can I do better? And it's just a really powerful message that I believe strongly in every part of my life, in business and marriage and parenting. I just think the concept of really looking at what I can do to improve things is something that not enough people look at first, and it's the first thing that can actually make a difference.
Well, I guess there's an old saying, if it's to be, it's up to me. So That personal accountability piece really kind of looms large, especially when you're in a relationship. I can't let my wife know about that podcast. So she'll make me listen to it, even though she won't even listen to my podcast. Getting back to 5 Minutes with Dad, what can listeners expect in future episodes of that?
Well, we're going to have a lot more fun. We do have a lot of fun on the show, but now Pavlos is getting a little more comfortable behind the microphone, and he's starting to put some jokes in, saying, I want to have some funny type episodes, and he's really sort of adding more of his personality rather than just responding to me in episodes. The first couple episodes, we had fun, but now it was still a weird concept to him. They can expect some really great resources, and some of them are really just free, silly resources. Like, for example, we talk about how we play hide and go seek a different way. It's the tickle monster hide and go seek, where we count to 10, yell fee, fi, fo, fum, ready or not, here I come, and then when we find you, we tickle you. And then whoever gets tickled turns into the tickle monster. So we talk about silly games. We talk about, we just talk together, and it's just a lot of fun, where he and I are sort of talking a little bit. Of course, I'm sort of leading him a little bit, but about some sort of things we can put together to give to people. Those are in the works. But for the show itself in the near term, more resources, more fun, and just some good old-fashioned dad and son time.
Really awesome. We're going to make sure we put up the links to that, and Confessions of a Terrible Husband. When that comes up, I'll make sure I throw that in the show notes as well.
Sweet.
Nick, how can people find you?
Well, 5minuteswithdad.com is our home base. That's where you'll find all the episodes, the resources, and links to iTunes and Stitcher. And for confessions, if you did want to look it up, it's at aterriblehusband.com is our blog, and we're going to be adding the podcast to that there.
Now, as bonus content, here is my 5 minutes with Pavlos Pavlidis. Okay, my guest today is one of the coolest guys in the world, and he has some people with him, including his dad and his little sister. He and his dad are the hosts of 5 Minutes with Dad. So, Pavlos, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, Pavlos. What's it like to have a podcast?
I earn stuff.
You earn stuff. Cool. What kind of stuff do you earn?
I earn toys.
That's usually a motivator for my 8-year-old son, so I totally get that, Pavlos. I was talking to your dad, and he said you're getting ready to start kindergarten. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You excited?
Yeah. I'm starting tomorrow.
You're starting tomorrow, so yeah, this is a school night for you, so you're going to have to go to bed extra early, I know. So you nervous at all?
No.
So speaking of nervous, so you're doing this podcast with your dad, and were you nervous about doing that with your dad?
No.
So you're like a pro now. You guys have had quite a few episodes. Do your friends know that you do a podcast?
Ethan, my friend.
That's cool. So what do they think about it?
He said he wanted to do a show.
Well, are you going to have Ethan on your show sometime?
Only when Daddy's here, because sometimes he has to work.
Us grown-ups do have to work sometimes. Gets in the way of having a lot of fun stuff, huh?
Yeah.
So you just turned 5. I heard you at a birthday not that long ago, and you got a really cool gift.
Yeah.
What was it?
I have a big phone full of
Wow,
things.
that is really cool. My son's 8, and he doesn't even have a phone yet, although he plays with his mommy's phone. What kind of games? What's your favorite one?
H2O Go. That's the only game I love to play.
If you're anything like my son, you could probably spend hours playing that game, huh?
Uh-huh.
I heard also from your dad that you went to a baseball game not that long ago.
Oh, I did.
You were like a celebrity there. You got to go in the bullpen. You got a baseball. What else did you do?
What did we do at the Red Sox game?
My first Red Sox game. Tried to catch a ball. To keep it.
Tried to catch a ball. So did you have your glove with you?
Yes.
I have never caught a ball before. I've never been that lucky. It's pretty tough, huh?
Yeah.
I heard you got a bunch of autographs, too.
I got some from 3 ladies, and one lady wanted my autograph.
Well, you are a famous podcaster, so I can see why she wanted your autograph. That's pretty awesome, Pavlos.
Thanks.
So whose idea was it to do the podcast, Pavlos?
Pavlos, you remember how we came up with the idea? Whose idea was it to do the podcast? Who wanted to do a show? Well, Daddy was doing another show, and you asked me if you could do a show with me too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it fun doing a show with your dad?
Yes.
What do you guys talk about on your show?
We talk about all sorts of things, like games,
We talk about
right?
everything. We talk about
Friends and having fun together and giving. What else
we
we
even
talk
talk about giving and spending.
Well, it sounds like you're pretty excited about that spending part.
Yes, I am.
A definite, emphatic yes there. It was really awesome talking to you, but I know you need to go to
It was
bed
awesome
soon.
to talk to you, too. Bye.
New and Noteworthy is brought to you by.
If you're looking for affordable, reliable web hosting, look no further than Bluehost. Hosting plans start at $3.95 per month, and with one-click WordPress integration, there's no easier way to get your website up and running. Go to newandnoteworthy.net/Bluehost or click the Bluehost banner on our website to get started.
You've been listening to New and Noteworthy. To get show notes for today's episode, along with other great resources, go to newandnoteworthy.net. You can also connect with the show at the New and Noteworthy page on Facebook or follow Dave on Twitter at Q Westwood. And if you like today's episode, don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave a review on iTunes or Stitcher.